Hello and welcome back to Eggro VR. Today we're going to do a settings guide on FS 2020. We're going to get 90 frames per second. You see a lot of people or a lot of folks are sharing videos getting 90 frames. I mean, I was able to get 90 frames per second in FS 2020 with my RTX 3080 Ti, but as most of you know that it's not stable. I mean, as soon as you fly low, it's going to dip down sometimes even into the 60s, and I believe that fluctuation is going to cause stutters, frame drops, hitching, whatever you want to call it. And then when you transfer over to motion reprojection, which in turn, if you're getting 45 frames, it's going to extrapolate times 2, which will be 90 in turn. So you're really technically you're getting 90 frames per second with motion reprojection. I've searched far and wide, everywhere on YouTube, online, different posts, Reddit, everywhere, and I can't get enough information on motion reprojection. It seems most people hate motion reprojection, and if you followed my channel, I'm not a fan of it neither. I was trying it in DCS, but if I'm able to get a solid 90 frames per second in Digital Combat Simulator, why? And this is in VR using the HP G2. Why would I use motion reprojection? Just doesn't make sense, right? But in something like FS 2020, we don't even have multi-threading in FS 2020, and I don't think it's ever going to be implemented either. Although 2024, it seems that will be the case, and maybe eventually, hopefully, it will enable VR. We will be able to fly in VR in FS 2024, but that's still a little ways away. So for now, follow this guide. You will get 90 frames. I just wouldn't recommend it. It's never stable. I don't know too many people that have jumped into this sim and were able to get 90 frames solid flying low through New York, Tokyo, Edinburgh, Scotland, just different parts of the world. It's just not possible. I mean, I can hit 90 frames and stay at 90 frames at, say, 5,000 feet to 30,000 feet. That's cool, but I don't always do that. I like to ground hug. I like to fly nice and low, check out the areas nice and close. That's just my preference. It's how I fly. So the settings guide, later in the video, we're going to get to motion reprojection, and I'm going to give you proof of what works. And spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you motion reprojection with turbo mode off is the way to go. But everybody's system is a little bit different. Your configuration could be different. Your NVIDIA control panels settings could be different. AMD, whatever have you. In my case, I have NVIDIA, and I've always stuck with NVIDIA. I eventually probably will check out some AMD, but for now, I'm just happy with my system the way it is. And it's working fantastic, and you will see in this video. In the backdrop right now, this is TAA PC, so flying PC, not VR. But this is just the intro. We're going to get into VR, and I will share 90 frames per second. Without further ado, let's dive in and stick around because I know this is going to help you. So you can give your 2 bits after the video and after you try the settings. I mean, you're going to say certain settings don't work, but I'd like to say that I'm the one that's in the trenches, boots on the ground, trying these settings. People might say, okay, well, you didn't do your homework, you didn't do enough research. All I know is that what I do works. I try every setting, I find something that's stable, and isn't that what we're all here for? Stability in VR, because instability in virtual reality causes nausea, causes headaches, eye strain. I don't think we want that. And if you do, I would say I'm a couple years into VR now, maybe 3 or somewhere close to that. I'd say I have some pretty strong VR legs. And if nausea is still somewhat happening, eye strain and headaches, then I'm doing something wrong. And that's why I'm doing this for you, so you don't have to go through that. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe. If you find this content helpful, I don't know, maybe share it. Let's see this get around. Okay, let's have fun. Here we go. Alright, so right click anywhere on the desktop and choose NVIDIA control panel settings. I would screenshot really fast here, but adjust image settings with preview. Use 3D application, set that to performance. Manage 3D settings. Here are the global settings. So scroll to the bottom, make sure vertical sync is off. This will change throughout the video as we are going to go from 90 frames per second to motion reprojection. Okay, these are the settings I generally use, and I barely change this throughout the video whatsoever. There are low latency, yes, I want that to off, and power management's always at preferred maximum performance. Texture filtering, anisotropic sample optimization, actually I would turn that to off. Negative log BIOS clamp, and quality at high performance. Vertical sync, use pre-rendered frames, 2.
for me. I just enjoy better resolution. It looks better. Set G-Sync. I always have G-Sync on. I haven't found there's any difference between the two. Having it on versus having it off. Next, we're going to go under Windows Search, type in GPU, and under Hardware Accelerated GPU Scheduling, otherwise known as HAGS, turn that to on. VRR is off. Graphics settings, Microsoft Flight Simulator, preference to high performance. If you don't have it, just add it. Really easy. Boom. Next, we're going to go into game mode. I have game mode off. I don't find it's necessary, at least for now. Actually didn't really notice much of a difference. I just keep it off. NVIDIA control panel, we're going to go back, and I'm just going to share with you system information. Resizable bar, I do have disabled at the moment. I went into the BIOS and disabled the resizable bar. That's just for part of this video, just showing you the difference having it on, having it off. So at the moment, it is off. All right, so we are going to check for some updates. For me, I'm just going to go into Hyper Operations Center and manage installation. Right here for the H145, it's just a payware. Now this beta build, I'm at 409. This was, recorded like a week ago, probably plus. Right there just shows build 407. I don't have the action pack, but I do have the Hilo. And I really recommend it. It's fantastic. We're going to update our SSDs, or at least check for updates. In my case, I'm using Western Digital 850X, or no, 850. Right here, just check for updates, boom, and then just gonna go to status, just make sure we're at 100%. It really doesn't matter. Okay, now I have an external data, so we're gonna hit Windows and X, Device Manager, and right there under disk drives, we're gonna right click, update driver, and check for updates. I'm gonna bring this out, just check for anything else. If you see an exclamation mark, check into it. It's probably an update. It doesn't hurt to always update your PC. Next, I'm just gonna update actually Chrome as well, but we're just going to clear browsing data. So clear now, about Microsoft Edge. It's just basically checking for an update. Next, going to go to Chrome, and we also are going to clear our history. Clear browsing data, boom, and cookies. You just don't need all that about Chrome. Just check for updates again, and bada boom. Next up, I'm going to open up OpenXR Toolkit, show you that it is enabled at the moment, and 1.3.2 is active. That is the latest version, but we will do an update check after. Now we're OpenXR through Windows, and customized render scale is at 140%. Here's just showing XR API layer and Busia Toolkit. Just shows that it is operating or running at the moment. We are going to lower this from 140%, and this is just to get 90 frames per second. And then we're going to disengage or disable motion reprojection. I would just, right there, disable. We are going to get back to motion reprojection, but as of now, and the start of this video, I'm going to show you how to get 90 frames per second that is fairly stable. Okay, it's not like DCS where you get the 90 frames solid, but we're going to check for Windows updates. Boom. And right there, it just says I'm up to date, check today, 8:43, but just click it, check for updates. If you're having any issues, that could also be a problem. Advanced, we're gonna set a date for Windows to check again, and so what that does is disable Windows from checking for updates in the background. You don't want that when you're playing. Disable your security until system restart. These are features that I find you don't need running in the background when you're playing. Okay, Intel driver support and software. Refresh results. Scan the system. I know that I'm up to date. I'm just showing you the process. Right here, I'm just going to click on that, running at full power, and GPU is, this device is working properly. That's good news. You don't want to see anything else. MSI Afterburner. I like to have this running in the background. I know that most 4090s, if not all, have the overclock feature where you just click the little button and boom, it engages your fan profile for you. I like to set a custom fan profile. I don't want to ramp them up, and I just enjoy using Microsoft Flight Simulator for overclocking and God knows what else. Boom. Okay, Windows Mixed Reality, we are going to set this to low. I had that set to high just for recording purposes, and change app window to 720. Experience options, I would just set that to best visual quality. Environment, you're going to want to clear your environment. I do this all the time. Boom. Okay, what else are we going to do here? Let's go into Xbox. So no, actually we're going to go to Windows Store, and we're just going to check for updates. I found that if there are anything that needs any or updating, just update it. Doesn't hurt. And what else? Okay, disk cleanup. Let's go to disk cleanup here. DirectX shader cache at 254 kilobytes. We're going to erase delivery optimization files as well as temporary files. Delete. You don't have to do that every time, but I just find it's good to stay up to date. Notifications. We are going to delete our temporary files. Under storage, temporary files. And boom, 9.36 megabytes remove files. You can see that I stay up to date with that. Now this is going to be a bit of a process, and it's going to be a long video. We're going to go into Xbox and just check notifications. Microsoft Store would have checked anyways for updates. Sometimes maybe the HP Reverb G2 or Mixed Reality needs an update. If you're using Steam, I'm using Xbox version. PC. Now we're going to go under power settings, additional power settings, bitsum highest performance. We are actually going to set this to ultimate. Boom. That is if you have that available. If not, maybe I don't know. It's pretty easy to get it anyways. Xbox games. We are going to check under task manager and make sure that no unwanted guests arrive at the party. News and interest, don't care. Bye for now. We're going to scroll down. There are going to be a couple unwanted guests here. There is every single time I launch the game. You can disable this. Nord, my VPN, I don't need it at the moment. And Live Boost by Norton. I know you're going to hate me for using Norton, but I'm old school. That's what I used to use, and I find it still works just fine. I don't recommend you use it, though. Sometimes it does act like a virus with programs running in the back. Whatever, just disengage. NordVPN again, disable that. You know what's cool about that is I can change server location, other games by having the VPN. I just don't find this necessary. We're going to go into FS 2020. We're going to clear our data. Delete your rolling cache file. Delete, say OK, and apply and save. Next, we're going to go back to home, general options. Okay. We're going to switch to DX12, apply and save. It's going to ask me to restart, which I will, but before we do, we're just going to go over the settings real fast. NVIDIA DLSS Super Resolution, set that to performance. Like I said, we're going to run 90 frames per second. Pretty sure you're going to be pretty impressed with this. It does work really good. It's just not always 90. It's not stable. You can get 90, and I can get it flying through the city, depending on the city, like Cairo, one of the open discovery. But if I were to have heavy clouds, say in New York, I'm going to go from 90, and if I'm low, let's say I'm 200 feet or 300 feet above the ground, you can screenshot all these settings. Texture synthesis, we're going to set to high. We're going to low grade some of these settings. But if I were to fly with heavy cloud cover in New York or London, Tokyo, lots of ground assets and buildings, it's going to cause some hitching, some stuttering. So you're not always going to get 90 frames per second regardless. I can fly at 30,000 feet and stay at 90, but it's not what I do. Okay, so let's update router firmware, and then we're going to reboot said router. But we're going to scroll down to administration, firmware upgrade, and signature version. We're just going to check for an update, and again, check for an update. Next up, we are going to reboot. I do this generally about once a month. Okay, under search again, we are going to type in update, and we're going to go Windows security. Okay, virus threat protection. I'm just showing that it's off. Also showing there again. This one's a little different. Device security, core isolation. We are going to turn this off. You're going to have to restart your PC, but memory integrity. It sounds worse than it is. Prevents attacks from inserting malicious code into high security processes. Turn that off. All right. Alright, so as promised, here is generally pretty close to 90 frames per second. We are in Giza. Our render is at pretty much native refresh rate of the HP Reverb G2. It's at 2174 by 2125. Post is at 3748 by 3664. In Windows OpenXR, I just basically set it to like 120 or 140. This is disabling OpenXR TK. And we're going to move on. There's going to be better ways to get 90 frames per second using the OXRTK. But for now, you can see we are on the ground and we are generally getting close to 90 frames per second, and it's pretty smooth. Okay, so we're back at Giza. As you notice, the render I have dropped to 1624 by 1588, and that is using the OXRTK. Just change your render scale to 2800. And I know there's going to be some people that will disagree with having to lower your refresh rate so much, but I'm telling you, this is so smooth. Look at, so we're at 90 frames, but it is solid. The GPU frame time in milliseconds is basically peaking at 10 milliseconds. Solid green. Main thread, same thing, and your RDR is generally the pass off from the CPU to the GPU. Main thread, again, is below 10 milliseconds. So now we're here in Rio de Janeiro, and we're gonna fly nice and low. Me being a ground hugger, this is why I like to set my settings a little low if I want to get that 90 frames per second nice and smooth. Again, I will show you throughout the video how to change your render scaling in the OXRTK. Here we are switching. Now we are really low. We're going through the city in Rio de Janeiro. Man, this is beautiful with that sunset. Okay, here again, we are actually going to do a nice water landing. I forget actually where I am. I just jumped into this to fly it, but basically generally I'm just showing you again. Post is at 2800 by 2738. So again, you're just going to change your render scaling to 2800. Throughout this video, mostly we're going to fly at, the post will be at 3750. So basically we're setting almost native refresh rate of the headset at 90 Hertz. But we are going to switch down to motion reprojection. I know there's going to be people getting out their pitchforks and their greasy little Cheeto fingers and slandering me on this, but motion reprojection, in my opinion, is the way to go. You can basically set and forget. With 90 frames, it's not always stable. And right now I'm showing you how much there's always going to be give and take relationship here. So if you want 90 frames per second, 90 Hertz or native refresh rate of the headset, the G2, you're going to have to make some sacrifices, whether it's going to be your settings or your render scaling. Something's going to have to give in order to maintain a solid 90 FPS. I was able to get 90 FPS in DCS solid with decent to high settings, but in Microsoft Flight Simulator, I am struggling to maintain a 90 frames per second, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the world is having the same issue. I mean, in this sim, or the people that do play. But right now, I'm just showing you it is possible, but you're going to have to make some sacrifices. And again, motion reprojection does produce some artifacting, yes. But if you're able to maintain 40 frames or 45 frames per second, so half the refresh rate of said headset, the G2, then you're not going to get as much artifacting. But if you can't maintain 40 frames for 45 frames per second, that's when you're going to start getting artifacting. Generally, I mean, look at this map. We're landing on the water here, and it's not the best landing. I kind of suck. But motion reprojection, it extrapolates all frames. So in this example, it creates all 3 frames to take the frame rate from 30 to 90 FPS. This is done to compensate for the delay introduced between the moment the application finished rendering a frame and the moment that the frame needs to be displayed. It's above most of our pay grade, but I'm telling you, it works fantastically, and I'm gonna get to that. To me, that is my set and forget. Okay, here we're in the H145 Airbus Hilo. This thing is beautiful. It is payware. I can't believe how nice this chopper is. I mean, and we're still same settings. I haven't changed anything. And I will go over the settings. I don't change the settings too much throughout the video. I'm gonna show you what I use, but I am always gonna fall back to motion reprojection because I can fly anywhere in the world on this map or anywhere on this sim. Okay, so this is basically showing you how to get your overlay to basically maintain your frames and just kind of keep an eye on what to fix. We're going to go into developer mode in FS settings, and we're going to turn developer mode to on, and that'd be about it. Then you're going to go to debug, and we're going to go to display FPS, and bada boom, you are going to get it's going to show in your VR headset. And one thing, all the things you're going to want to look for is your main thread, RDR thread, that's the pass off, and the GPU, and right there, general milliseconds, and of course your FPS. Okay, this is using DX12 in FS 2020. I found some weird oddities. I don't know if it's bugs in DX12 using FS 2020, but I'm going to share with you like the weirdest results. I'm sure there's a couple of you Cheeto finger individuals that'll tell me what this is, and that's cool. Go ahead. But there is a weird anomaly here when you switch, when you actually have DX12 running, and you're gonna switch between your settings while having that. And this is weird. I will get to this. We're gonna basically fly Giza here. Now we're gonna go into the settings. Bring up MSI. Right there it's showing 90 frames. Okay, cool. Milliseconds look pretty good, between 12, a couple spikes up to 17. Temps are good. Usage 78 to 80. And now we're going to minimize this. Now we're going to change a few settings. This is so weird. I just accidentally stumbled on this. So these are the settings that I'm using for 90 FPS here. Yeah, some of them are kind of low, but we're going to change volumetric clouds from medium to high. Texture resolution, we'll leave that at ultra. And water waves, actually no, that is one of them I changed. Cube map reflections, we're going to change to 192. Now we're going to go over to PC. This is the weird one. I know it doesn't work. NVIDIA DLSS frame generation from off. Click that on and just watch. You're going to see. Okay, now see this weird anomaly. That's not what it's about, but you don't see that in VR. You just see it in the generated recording, because I would notice something like that in VR. It would drive me up the wall. But we're just going to fly a little bit here again in Giza, nice and low. And do you remember what I showed you before? We're going to go back, MSI, and I'm going to bring it up. Now we're running 140. Okay, say that cuts in half, 70, 90. Okay, so that's weird. 8.7. I know you have to restart in order, but look at that. Look at that frame time. From 12, a spike up to 17, down to 8.5. And that's what this is about. I mean, stability, right? And our usage is now at 100% or 98%. What? It's probably nothing, and it's probably something stupid, but... Alright, so these are the settings that I'm using with motion reprojection. We just screenshot that. NVIDIA Reflex, low latency, I would have that off. Terrain level of detail, I have that to 150. Off-screen terrain, high. Terrain vector, ultra. Buildings, high. I can bump that up to ultra depending on where I'm flying. Trees and grass bushes, medium. Object level of detail at 130. Volumetric clouds, high. Texture resolution, always ultra. Texture super sampling, 8x8, and texture synthesis, ultra. Water waves, high. Shadow maps, 768. Terrain shadows, 128. Contact shadows, this is a big one. I would just keep that off. I don't really notice too much of a difference. Windshield effect, I usually run that at about ultra, but right now we're going to run it high. Ambient occlusion off, you can turn that up. QMAP 256. And that's it. I mean, cockpit or resolution, whatever, was also at high. PC, now this will affect your VR gameplay, some of it. You will notice a difference, but you can see DirectX 11 version DX11. Same T-Lot is at 150. Some of them are a little different here. Terrain vector, I just have it on ultra just for recording purposes. Object level of detail, so OLOD is at 130. Now, anisotropic filtering, we have that as application controlled, I have that changed in NVIDIA control panel settings, so it doesn't matter, it can be off there. Texture synthesis, again, ultra, but that's recording purposes. Windshield effect will put down to high, apply and save. And glass cockpit refresh rate at high as always. Cube matte reflections, this is just PC at 192. So we're gonna go right now, I'm gonna scroll down. We're gonna go to NVIDIA control panel settings. Now, generally, these are exactly what you're gonna wanna do. We're gonna go to manage 3D settings. We're gonna scroll down right there, your shader cache, you're gonna wanna have that at 10 gigabytes. Virtual reality or vertical sync, we have that to off. Then we're gonna go to program settings for FS 2020. Anisotropic filtering is at 16 times, anti-aliasing FXAA off, anti-aliasing gamma on, and anti-aliasing mode corrections pitch controlled, low latencies off, and as always, power management preferred maximum. We've already gone through this. Texture, now we're gonna turn that off after. Anyways, texture filtering, negative LOD BIOS is clamp, filtering quality is high performance, and filtering trilinear optimization is on. Vertical or virtual reality pre-render frames is set to 2. Right there, anisotropic sample optimization is off. We're gonna click apply. And boom, those are the settings. Like I said, set and forget. G-Sync, I do have that enabled. Change resolution. So yeah, I mean, these are just recording purposes. I find it doesn't matter. Advanced, gamma, color. I mean, I just changed these for recording purposes. It's not quite necessary, but this is going to make everything vibrant and pop. Just set digital vibrance to 65%. I've always had it there. I use it for DCS as well. System information, just showing you resizable bar now is enabled. And I would just leave it at that. I find you do get a bit of a gain, 5% or whatever have you. Use the 3D application setting. Again, set to performance, just leave it. You notice everything's the same. I'm just showing you how to change that from quality to performance. And then you would click apply and bada boom. That is done. Now here are OXR from Windows Mixed Reality settings. Customize render scale at 140%. I just leave it. Again, set and forget. Use best frame. Okay, right there showing that OXRTK is enabled. And bada boom. Now we're flying the H145. And it's solid. Again, with turbo mode off, you can tell because the main thread is being utilized the most. Like I said, it's way better. First I stood by it. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have turbo mode on. It just seems stable depending on what settings you have. But the settings that I'm using right now, this runs bloody beautiful. Mind my French. Main thread. Okay, we add a little bit of a spike there. You're gonna get little dips in frames every now and then. We are gonna, actually, no, I don't need to. But we are, throughout this video, I will share some London footage with heavy clouds, the exact same settings, and still staying at 45 frames. Like I said, motion reprojection, it's upscaling. I'm showing you again, turbo mode is off. Appearance, post-processing is on. Input 0%, system, yep, all exactly the same. And motion reprojection on, lock motion reprojection to 45 frames. Some people are going to want to rock that at unlocked. I prefer locking it at 45. It's not really 45, like I said and explained earlier. You're technically actually getting 90 frames per second. Extrapolating fake frames. Damn, does this look good. I love flying this helo. Those of you that have the H145 or say you don't have it, it is probably one of my favorite aircraft other than the Kit Fox, which we will get to as well. The Kit Fox is great too. That's probably one of my other favorites. The Kodiak is good. I have that as well. But right now I'm probably flying this aircraft the most. I like the helos because you can basically fly anywhere nice and slow and travel around the world. I mean, how could you go wrong? To me, this is a form of meditation. Okay, this is with my settings nearly maxed. Here's the OXRTK settings. Under Performance, Overlay, Advanced, Target Reprojection off, Upscaling, Cast, Sharpness 50%, and Turbo Mode, you're going to want that off. Next up, we're going to go to Appearance. Post-processing is the only thing I changed, on. Input 0%. System, you're going to want to override resolution, say yes to 3749 by 3665. Motion reprojection's on, and lock motion reprojection to 45 frames per second. That is all I changed in OXRTK. So as it sits now, we have turbo mode off, and this is my preference. I find that it's more stable, and I'm telling you, if you try this, this is as smooth as butter. And that's a lot to say for FS 2020. 45 frames per second in motion reprojection. This really feels like 90 FPS. And I know because I fly 90 FPS solidly in DCS. And this feels just the same. But with a lot more assets and a lot more places to travel, I find I am really enjoying the sim now that I have these settings dialed in. And these are nearly maxed settings for the Reverb G2. It is a demanding headset, but this is a demanding sim, and you're going to want to have this running as smooth as possible. We are going to switch turbo mode. We're going to turn that on, and the difference is that it's going to be less utilization on the main thread. We'll probably run between 12 milliseconds, but the RDR thread to the GPU thread will be the same. I've read posts, you generally want that with your main thread lower, but for me, using turbo mode off is, I don't know, it's smooth as butter. This runs fantastic, as long as your main thread can handle it. I do have an overclock, but main thread's still staying in yellow. My RDR and GPU are running fantastic. It's smooth. It looks better when you're, say, turbo mode. Okay, now we're going to turn turbo mode on. And this is the only thing. Some of you might recommend having this on. That's cool. I can see why. I mean, it's less utilization on the CPU. Now it's running at what, 12? Between 11 and 13 I'm seeing. RDR threads, so the pass off from the CPU to the GPU and the GPU are about the same. And Imbusia, in a post that I read recently, is that's what you want. And generally I would say yes, but in my experience so far, I would just turn off turbo mode and just see the difference. Maybe for you, it might be different. I don't know. Your hardware specs could be a little different than mine. I have the i7 12700K. And if you're rocking anything older, then yeah, maybe go for turbo mode and less utilization on your CPU. But for me, even last gen with the 12700K, I'm pretty happy with that, having main thread. But what I'm noticing with turbo mode on is I am noticing stuttering. And you can see it. It looks smooth, but then you'll see little red lines, spikes go by, and the overlay, that is dropped frames. But we are running native refresh rate with very high settings. But in headset with turbo mode on, I am noticing a lot more hitching, stuttering, some ghosting. Okay, now with motion reprojection, you are going to notice some artifacting if your PC can't keep up with 90 frames per second. This is about as low as you're going to want to get in New York anyways. Like, who flies like this? I generally do, I guess. It's kind of fun. But we're going to get nice and low here. It's pretty stable though. It is. But it does generate more hitching, and you can see it there, stuttering. But in most case scenarios, most of us aren't going to be flying 10 feet above the ground in New York. When people share their videos, they're usually a couple thousand feet above New York or wherever they're flying. We'll share. We are in London. This is known to be one of the more GPU or actually hardware taxing parts of FS 2020. And we are going to raise the density of cloud coverage to max. The reason for doing so is I want to try to cripple this PC a little bit and show you the stability that it pretty much stays exactly the same regardless of what I do. Yes, I can bump up some settings, but stability is what we're going for, as well as visual fidelity. But as you can see, I'm not struggling with that. I don't see there's any issues. Let's bring up cloud cover. It's just so daunting trying to do this with the controller, with your HMD. Much rather have that as a keybind, but for now, we'll exit this out, and boom, we're gonna fly in London, like I said, with heavy cloud cover. And stability looks exactly on par as everywhere else. I mean, of course, you're gonna see the odd hitch. But I don't see very many. If I do, I have to be snapping my head around really fast in order to get that hitching. I'm not seeing artifacting. If there is, there may be a little bit on the horizon when you're looking through the router or something like that, looking at clouds low to the ground, but generally you don't see it. And if you're looking over at your wings, you might see a little artifacting as well. I guess you would call it ghosting. You do see a little bit of that with motion. Okay, we're in the kit box. Live weather, some rain with windshield effect set to ultra. We will get to the settings in a few minutes here, but we are going to take off. On ground, 45, main thread, so turbo mode is off. And I can't stress that enough. Try it out. If your turbo mode is set to on, turn it off, and you'll see the difference in fluidity. This runs absolutely smooth. The windshield effect, having that set to ultra when you're going through rain. I mean, look at those raindrops. You don't know until you're in VR in a decently high fidelity HMD how nice this is. For me, it's like meditation, flying around different parts of the world. Live weather, kind of live time. I fly my hometown sometimes. Not going to say where that is, but damn, this looks so good. Again, I mean, the fluidity, the smoothness of flying anywhere, as low as you can go, different weather, max clouds. And like I said, the settings are pretty high. We're gonna get to that pretty quick. Again, Kit Fox. This thing is so much fun to fly. You can land almost anywhere. And look at how sexy that plane is. Seriously, I like those big tires too. It just adds almost like a cartoon vibe, and I know it's a real plane. But it's cool. I like that. Looks good. The fidelity of the aircraft itself is, I don't know, this thing was well made. Beautiful. Probably in my top two between this and the H145. After that, it's okay. We're gonna go into our settings. The Kodiak is up there in my top three as well. But yeah, I'm gonna switch VR mode so you can actually see what we're doing. DLSS super resolution set to balanced, fidelity, AMD, whatever, set to 200. That's basically the ground, how it looks. T-Lot again, 145. I usually run that. I can bump it up about 150. I find 145, 150 is nice and stable. Everything else ultra. Okay, buildings I like to keep high. I know they're a bit of a tax hit. OLOD set to 130. Buildings, try bumping that up to ultra and flying through New York with these settings provided. It looks beautiful. About as good as the buildings are going to look in FS 2020. Anisotropic filtering, we have that off, but we do have it set in NVIDIA control panel to 16 times, so you don't need to set it again. Cube macro reflection set to 256. You need to try this. There's a lot of people that are against motion reprojection. If your PC can handle it, you're not going to see the artifacts. You're not going to see undulating rotors. I'm not really with it for DCS because I can maintain stable 90 frames per second, but I can't maintain stability with 90 frames per second flying the way I do close to the ground in FS 2020. Maybe there are people that can. I'm still yet to see them. People say, I mean, anyone can hit 90 frames per second, but to stay there, I mean, constantly flying low, not flying 30,000 feet. We're talking flying low. So us ground huggers, to maintain 90 frames per second is, right now, it's unreachable. Maybe it's my hardware. I don't know. I do have an overclocked i7 12700K with a 4090 DDR5 at 5600 megahertz. So we're running XMP, proper cooling, and I hope you can't hear that. I really do. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you may not miss any future content that I may share with you. If you have any questions, there's always somebody in the comments below. I will always try to answer those questions if I am available. I hope you're all safe. Also, if you're wondering why I didn't share any TAA, FSR, or NIS footage, is because TAA, for me, I could not find a stable gameplay in virtual reality using the HP G2. That being said, I will dabble some more and share said footage in the near future. FSR and NIS, I did use fixed foveated rendering, but those of you that are aware of fixed foveated rendering with blurred peripherals, to me, not so cool. I would just much rather not use that. Anyways, you all stay safe out there, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye for now.